Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of Nia and Jay's story. If you haven't watched episode 1, don't worry. I've got you covered. Just click the link showing at the top right corner of this video. Now let's dive in. Nia's hand trembled as she reached for her office door. Monday morning, the first day of her new life as director of strategy, and all she could think about was the man who'd made it possible while systematically destroying her peace of mind. The iced Americano sat on her new desk like an accusation. One pump vanilla. Exactly how she liked it. The sticky note attached read simply, "Congratulations, Director Adesanya. You earned this. JP." She crumpled it without reading it twice, but her fingers wouldn't let go. Planning to stand there all day? Or are you going to actually sit in that very expensive chair you fought 3 years for? Nia spun around. Jay leaned against her doorframe in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, looking tired but devastating. His tie was perfectly knotted, his hair styled with that effortless precision that she now knew probably took him 20 minutes to achieve, and his dark eyes watched her with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. "Get out," she said. "Good morning to you too, Director." That lazy smile curved his lips, the one that used to make her stomach flip. Still did, if she was being honest. "I was just making sure they set up your office correctly. I don't need you checking on me. I know you don't." He pushed off the doorframe, moving toward her with that predatory grace that had always set her pulse racing. She held her ground, even as every instinct screamed at her to either run or close the distance between them. "You've never needed anyone. It's one of the things I admire most about you." "Don't." She raised a hand, creating a barrier between them that felt flimsy at best. "Don't do that. Don't act like nothing's changed." "Everything's changed, Nia." He stopped just inside her personal space, not touching but close enough that she could smell his cologne, that expensive understated scent that had haunted her dreams for weeks. "But not the part that matters. Not how I feel about you." "You mean how you felt about your project? Your little experiment in slumming it with the common employees?" His jaw tightened, a muscle ticking beneath his skin. "That's not fair." "Fair?" Her laugh came out bitter, sharp enough to cut. "You want to talk about fair? You looked me in the face and lied to me every single day. Every time I reprimanded you. Every time I treated you like you were learning from me. You knew. And I looked like a fool." "You looked brilliant." He leaned in, and she hated how her body responded, swaying toward him before she caught herself. "You looked like exactly what you are, the smartest person in this building. And if you think for 1 second that I was slumming it, you weren't paying attention. I was falling for you, Nia. Every late night, every challenge, every time you looked at me like I was worth something beyond a last name I never asked for." The sincerity in his voice cracked something in her chest, but she couldn't let him see it. Wouldn't let him see how much his words affected her, how much she'd replayed every moment between them, searching for the lies and finding only truth buried under one massive omission. "We're done here, Mr. Park. Please leave my office." He studied her for a long moment, something unreadable flickering in those dark eyes. Then he nodded once, sharp and controlled, and headed for the door. He paused at the threshold, his hand on the frame. "For the record, I'm not giving up on you. On us. You can be angry. You've earned that. But I know what we had was real. Every word, every look, every moment. And when you're ready to stop running, I'll be here." He left, and Nia collapsed into her new leather chair, her heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. The coffee sat untouched on her desk, and she stared at it for 5 full minutes before finally taking a sip. Perfect. Of course it was perfect. "Girl, you look like someone who just survived a natural disaster." Chi appeared in her doorway, arms crossed, expression knowing. Let me guess. Tall, devastatingly handsome, probably apologized without actually apologizing. I don't want to talk about it. Too bad. We're talking about it. Chi closed the door and settled into one of Nia's new visitor chairs. Because you've been spiraling for 3 days, and I'm not watching you sabotage yourself over wounded pride. It's not pride. It's absolutely pride. Chi leaned forward, her expression softening. Nia, I love you. You're my best friend, and you're brilliant, and you've earned everything you have. But you're so busy being angry that he didn't announce, "Hi, I'm the secret CEO on day one that you can't see what's right in front of you." And what's that? That man is in love with you. Actually, genuinely in love with you. Not with what you can do for him, not with your position, not with some fantasy. With you. Chi paused. And unless I'm completely misreading the situation, you're in love with him too. Nia opened her mouth to deny it, but the words stuck in her throat. That's what I thought. Chi stood, moving to the door. So here's my advice. Take it or leave it. Stop punishing him for something that wasn't actually a betrayal, and start figuring out what you really want. Because that man isn't going anywhere, and you're both miserable. Seems like a waste to me. She left, and Nia was alone with her thoughts, her untouched coffee, and the crumpled note she still hadn't thrown away. The strategy meeting that afternoon was torture. Nia sat at the conference table, her tablet open to the quarterly projections, trying desperately to focus on anything except the man at the head of the table. Jay ran the meeting with quiet, authority, his demeanor professional and controlled. When he asked for her input on the Jakarta expansion, she delivered her analysis with the same competence she'd shown for 3 years. Professional, thorough, giving nothing away. But every time their eyes met across the table, even for a fraction of a second, electricity crackled between them. Want, frustration, a promise that this wasn't over. She wondered if anyone else could feel it. This tension that seemed to suck all the air from the room whenever they occupied the same space. When the meeting ended, she gathered her materials quickly, planning her escape. But Jay's voice stopped her at the door. Director Adesanya, a moment? The room emptied. Executives filing out with curious glances. Min Jun was the last to leave, shooting his best friend a knowing look before closing the door behind him. Nia turned, and suddenly, the large conference room felt impossibly small. Jay stood at the window, his back to her, tension visible in the line of his shoulders. "You're very good at that," he said without turning around. "At what?" "Pretending I don't exist." He turned, and the expression on his face made her breath catch. Raw, unguarded. "Pretending there's nothing between us. You almost had me convinced for a second there. We're at work. I was being professional. So was I." He moved toward her, slow and deliberate, each step measured. But the second everyone left, all I can think about is how much I want to cross this room, back you against that door, and kiss you until you stop pretending you don't feel this too. Her pulse jumped. "Jay, I know. I know we're at work. I know you're angry. I know this is complicated." He stopped just close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "But I also know that you felt it too just now. That charge every time our eyes met. You can lie to yourself all you want, but your body gives you away every time." She wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her righteous anger and wounded pride, but standing there, with him looking at her like she was the answer to every question he'd never asked, all she could think about was how much she'd missed this. Missed him. Missed the easy banter and the loaded silences and the way he saw her. Really saw her. In a way no one else ever had. "I should go," she said, but her feet wouldn't move. "You should." He didn't step back. Didn't give her the space she should want but couldn't quite make herself ask for. But you're not going to. You're very confident for someone I'm currently angry at. You're angry because it's easier than admitting the truth to yourself. His hand lifted, hovering near her face, not quite touching, giving her the choice. Always giving her the choice. Tell me I'm wrong. She couldn't. The words wouldn't come. His thumb brushed her cheek, feather light, and she shivered. That's what I thought. Someone's footsteps echoed in the hallway, sharp and approaching. They jumped apart like they'd been burned. Jay's hand dropped, his expression shifting back to professional neutrality so quickly it made her dizzy. Director Huang appeared in the doorway, his calculating smile firmly in place. Mr. Park, the board is ready for you. Director Adesanya, excellent work in the meeting today. Very insightful. Thank you, Director Huang. Nia's voice came out steadier than she felt. When Huang left, Jay turned back to her, but the moment was broken. The walls were back up, the CEO mask firmly in place. We're not done, he said quietly. Yes, we are. But even she didn't believe it. The next 3 days fell into a pattern that was slowly driving Nia insane. Jay was everywhere, in meetings, watching her with those dark eyes that saw too much. In the hallway, his presence making her hyper-aware of every breath. In her thoughts, every quiet moment filled with memories of almost kisses and loaded silences. Thursday evening, most of the office had emptied by 7. Nia stayed late, buried in market analysis reports, trying desperately to focus on anything except the man whose office was 2 floors above hers. She walked to the break room for her 4th coffee of the day and found him there. Tie loosened, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that had no business being that distracting. He looked up when she entered, and something flickered across his face. Relief, want, frustration. Burning the midnight oil, Director? His voice was casual, but his eyes were anything but. Some of us don't have family connections to fall back on. The words came out sharper than she intended, old wounds still raw. Ouch. He set down his coffee, turning to face her fully. Is that really what you think? That I'm here because of my father? I think you're here because your last name is on the building. And you're here because you're better than everyone else in this building, including me. He moved closer, and she should step back, should maintain distance, but her feet stayed planted. But you're so busy being angry that you can't see I already know that. I've always known that. Her breath caught. This doesn't change anything, doesn't it? His eyes dropped to her lips just for a second, but she felt it like a physical touch. Because from where I'm standing, you're doing that thing again. What thing? Forgetting to breathe for exactly 2 seconds when I get close to you. He leaned in, close enough that his breath fanned across her cheek, warm and tempting. I've been counting since the day I met you. 2 seconds. Every single time. She sucked in air deliberately. I'm breathing fine. Liar. The word was soft, almost affectionate. I could kiss you right now. Remind you exactly what you're trying so hard to deny. How good we were together. How good we could be. You wouldn't dare. Only because you'd regret it in the morning. He stepped back, and the loss of his warmth felt like punishment. But when you stop lying to yourself about what you want, I'm not going to hold back, Nia. Fair warning. He grabbed his coffee and walked out, leaving her trembling against the counter. Friday afternoon brought a new complication in the form of Andre from marketing. He'd been circling since the gala, his flirtation becoming bolder now that Nia was a director and apparently available. Nia, there you are. Andre appeared in the break room with his signature charm, all white teeth and easy confidence. I've been trying to catch you all week. Dinner tonight? That fusion place in Ida 1 finally has availability. Before she could formulate a polite refusal, Jay walked in. His expression was perfectly neutral, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes when he saw Andre standing close to her. Director Adesanya already has plans tonight. Jay said smoothly, his voice casual but carrying an edge that made the hair on her arms stand up. I do? Nia raised an eyebrow, torn between annoyance and something else entirely. Board dinner. Mandatory for all directors. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Didn't you get the memo? There was no memo. She knew it. Andre knew it. But the territorial edge in Jay's voice made her pulse spike in a way that had nothing to do with anger. Right. Andre backed off quickly, reading the room with the survival instincts of someone who'd worked in corporate environments long enough to know when to retreat. Another time then. Excuse me. When the door closed behind him, Nia turned on Jay. Mandatory board dinner? There could be one. He moved into her space, and suddenly the break room felt impossibly small. His hands landed on the counter on either side of her, caging her in, and her heart started hammering. Or I'm lying to keep him away from you. Take your pick. You don't get to do that. You don't get to. Don't I? His voice dropped, low and intimate and possessive in a way that made heat pool in her belly. Because the way I see it, you haven't told me to stop. You haven't said you're not interested. You've just been running scared, and I'm done watching other men think they have a chance when we both know the truth. What truth? That you're mine. The words came out rough, almost primitive. That I'm yours. That this thing between us isn't going away just because you're pretending it doesn't exist. I'm not yours, she said, but her voice wavered. Aren't you? His face was inches from hers now, his body radiating heat. Because the way you're looking at me right now says different. The way you haven't pushed me away says different. She was trapped between him and the counter, and God help her. She didn't want to escape. Jay! Say it, Nia. His thumb traced her jawline, barely a whisper of touch, but she felt it everywhere. Say you don't want this. Say you don't think about that night in the conference room when I almost kissed you. Say you don't lie awake wondering what would have happened if we hadn't been interrupted. Say it, and I'll walk away. Stop everything except being your CEO. But if you can't say it... Footsteps in the hallway. Voices approaching. They jumped apart just as two analysts walked past the break room, deep in conversation about quarterly projections. Jay straightened his tie, that dangerous smile playing at his lips. The CEO mask slid back into place, but his eyes promised this wasn't over. Think about it, Director. And let me know what you decide. He walked out, leaving her boneless against the counter, her heart racing and her body aching for something she'd convinced herself she couldn't have. That night, alone in her apartment, Nia stared at her ceiling and admitted the truth she'd been avoiding for days. She wanted him with an intensity that terrified her. Every loaded look, every almost touch, every moment of tension was slowly eroding her carefully constructed defenses. But wanting him meant surrendering her pride, meant admitting she'd overreacted at the gala, meant being vulnerable in a way that felt like standing on a cliff edge with no safety net. Her phone buzzed, a text from Chi. Stop overthinking and just tell the man you're crazy about him. Life's too short for this much angst. Nia typed back, it's not that simple. Chi's response was immediate. It's exactly that simple. You're just making it complicated because you're scared. And you, Nia Adesanya, are not someone who lets fear win. Nia stared at those words for a long time. Monday morning came too quickly, week 3 of her directorship, and she still hadn't figured out how to navigate the minefield of her feelings for Jay. She arrived early, hoping to avoid him, only to find him already in the conference room they'd been assigned for a joint project review. Morning. He didn't look up from his laptop, but she could feel his awareness of her like a physical thing. Morning. She set up her materials on the opposite side of the table, maintaining as much distance as the room allowed. They worked in silence for 20 minutes, the only sounds the clicking of keyboards and the occasional rustle of papers. but the tension built with every passing second, thick enough to choke on. "You're avoiding me," he said finally. "I'm working." "You're sitting as far away from me as physically possible in a 12 by 12 room. That's avoiding." He closed his laptop and looked at her directly. "Talk to me, Nia." "What do you want me to say? Anything? Something? Tell me what's going on in that brilliant mind of yours." He leaned back in his chair, and she hated how good he looked in the morning light streaming through the windows. "Because this silent treatment is killing me. I don't know what you want from me. I want you to stop treating me like a stranger. I want you to look at me the way you used to, before you knew my last name. I want—" He stopped, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I want you, Nia. All of you. The woman who challenges me, who makes me work for every smile, who sees past all the superficial bullshit to who I actually am. That's what I want." Her hands stilled on her keyboard. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because you're the CEO and I'm a director, and everyone is watching and waiting for me to fail. Waiting to say I only got here because of you. Because of whatever this is between us." The words tumbled out, raw and honest. "Because I've spent 3 years proving myself, and one wrong move could destroy everything I've built." He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentler. "You really think I'd let that happen? You can't control what people think." "No, but I can control what I do, and I would never, never put your career at risk." He stood, moving around the table, and she should tell him to stop, but the words wouldn't come. "The board chose you before the gala, before anyone knew about us. Your promotion had nothing to do with me." "How do I know that?" "Because I'll show you the meeting minutes, the vote count, the deliberations." He crouched beside her chair, putting himself at her eye level. "You earned this, Nia. Every bit of it. And anyone who suggests otherwise will answer to me." The fierce protectiveness in his voice made her chest tight. "You can't fight all my battles for me." "I know. You don't need me to." His hand covered hers on the armrest, warm and solid. "But I want to stand beside you while you fight them yourself. If you'll let me." She looked down at their hands, his covering hers, and felt something crack in her carefully constructed armor. "I don't know how to do this. How to be with you and still be taken seriously." "Then we'll figure it out together." He squeezed her hand gently. "But Nia, you have to decide if that's what you want, because I'm all in. I have been since day one, but I need to know where you stand." Before she could answer, her phone buzzed with an alert. "Meeting in 10 minutes. Executive floor." He pulled back, giving her space, and stood. "Think about it. Please." He left, and she sat alone in the conference room, staring at the door and feeling the weight of a decision that would change everything. The rest of the week passed in a blur of meetings and stolen glances and moments of tension so thick she could barely breathe through them. Jay kept his distance in public, professional and courteous, but every private moment crackled with the same electricity that had always existed between them. Wednesday evening, she was working late when someone knocked on her office door. Jay stood there with 2 containers of Thai food, the same order they'd shared during those late nights when he'd been her intern. "Peace offering," he said. "You haven't eaten, and neither have I, and I figured we both have to eat anyway." She should say no, should maintain the distance she'd been desperately trying to create. But her stomach growled, betraying her, and his smile turned knowing. "Fine, but just food. Nothing else." "Just food," he agreed, but the way he said it suggested he knew exactly how flimsy that boundary was. They ate in comfortable silence at first, the familiar rhythm of their old late nights settling over them like a blanket. But the tension simmered underneath, waiting. "I've missed this," he said finally. "Just being with you, talking to you, even when we're not talking." Jay, I know. I'm not supposed to say things like that. We're keeping it professional. He set down his chopsticks and looked at her directly. But I've never been good at lying to you, Nia. And the truth is, these past few weeks have been hell. Being close to you but not being able to touch you. Watching you build walls between us and not being able to tear them down. Maybe the walls are there for a reason. Are they? Or are they just there because you're scared? He leaned forward, elbows on her desk. And before you tell me you're not scared, remember that I know you. I know that you're terrified of losing control, of wanting something you can't strategize or plan for, of feeling something that's bigger than the life you've carefully constructed. You don't know me as well as you think, don't I? His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the glass walls of her office. I know that you reorganize your desk when you're stressed. I know you tap your pen 3 times before making a decision. I know you take your coffee with 1 pump of vanilla because 2 is too sweet and none is too bitter. I know that when you're really concentrating, you bite your bottom lip without realizing it. And I know that right now you're doing everything in your power not to look at me because you're afraid of what I'll see if you do. She looked up despite herself, and their eyes locked. The want in his gaze was devastating. "What do you see?" she whispered. "Someone who wants this just as much as I do but is too stubborn to admit it." He stood, moving around her desk, and she should stop him, but her body wouldn't cooperate. "Someone who's been lying awake at night thinking about what might have happened if we hadn't been interrupted. Someone who misses me just as much as I miss her." He stopped beside her chair, close enough to touch but not touching, giving her the choice, always giving her the choice. "Tell me I'm wrong and I'll leave. I'll stop pushing. I'll be nothing but professional from this moment forward." His hand lifted, hovering near her face. "But if I'm right, if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, then stop running, Nia. Stop hiding behind walls and fear and pride, and just be honest with me." Her heart hammered against her ribs. Every logical part of her brain screamed at her to send him away, to protect her career and her reputation and the life she'd built. But her heart, that traitorous organ, wanted nothing more than to lean into his touch and surrender to the connection that had been inevitable from the moment they met. "I—" The words stuck in her throat. His hand dropped. Disappointment flickered across his face before he masked it. "I understand. I'll go." He turned toward the door and panic flared in her chest. This was it. The moment where she either let him walk away or admitted the truth that had been burning inside her for weeks. "Wait." He froze, his back to her. "I do miss you." The words came out quiet, almost hesitant. "I miss the banter and the late nights and the way you looked at me like I was the smartest person you'd ever met. I miss how you challenged me without making me feel small. I miss—" She stood, her legs shaky. "I miss you. And I hate that I miss you. And I don't know what to do with that." He turned slowly, hope and caution warring in his expression. "That's a start. But I'm still angry. I'm still hurt that you didn't tell me the truth." "I know. And you have every right to be." He took a step closer. "But Nia, I need you to understand something. I couldn't tell you. Not because I didn't trust you, but because the moment I did, everything would change. The way you looked at me, the way you taught me, the way you treated me like I was just Jay. I wanted that. I needed it. Because my entire life, people have only ever seen the name, not the person behind it. And that's supposed to make it okay? No. It's supposed to help you understand why I made the choice I did." He closed the remaining distance between them. "But every word I said to you was true. Every moment we shared was real. The only thing I hid was a title I never asked for and a legacy I'm still trying to earn on my own terms." She searched his face, looking for any hint of deception, and found only sincerity. Raw, unguarded, real. I don't know if I can trust you again. Then let me earn it back. His hand cupped her face, thumb stroking her cheek. However long it takes. Whatever you need. I'm not going anywhere, Nia. The question is whether you're willing to take a chance on us. She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch despite herself. It felt like coming home, like finding something she'd been searching for without knowing she was looking. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. Probably. His forehead touched hers, and she felt his breath against her lips. But some of the best things are. If we do this, there are rules. Name them. We keep it private. Professional at work. No preferential treatment. No special favors. No. Agreed. His other hand found her waist, pulling her closer. Anything else? You have to promise me that if this falls apart, you won't let it affect my position here. That I'll succeed or fail on my own merits. Not because of whatever this is between us. I promise. Though for the record, you could never fail. You're too brilliant for that. His lips brushed her temple, feather light. But I promise anyway. Your career is yours. I would never interfere with that. Okay. The word came out breathless. Okay? Hope flickered in his eyes, fragile and beautiful. Okay. We can try. Slowly. Carefully. But Jay, if you ever lie to me again, I won't. I swear to you, I won't. And then his mouth was on hers. Soft and questioning at first, like he was afraid she might disappear. But when she kissed him back, threading her fingers through his hair and pulling him closer, the kiss deepened into something desperate and consuming. It was everything she remembered and nothing like it at the same time. Better. More intense. Weeks of tension and denial poured into one devastating kiss that made her forget where they were, who they were. Everything except the feel of his mouth on hers and his hands on her body. He backed her against the desk, his body pressing against hers, and she gasped against his mouth. His hand slid down to her waist, gripping her hips, and she arched into him. God, I've missed you, he murmured against her lips. So much it hurt. Jay. His name came out like a prayer as his mouth moved to her neck, finding the sensitive spot below her ear that made her knees weak. A knock on her office door made them jump apart. Nia's hand flew to her mouth, her lipstick undoubtedly smudged, her hair definitely mussed. Jay looked equally disheveled, his tie askew, lips swollen from kissing. Director Adesanya, a voice called from outside. I have those reports you requested. Just leave them outside, please, Nia managed, her voice steadier than she felt. I'll grab them in a moment. Footsteps retreated. They stared at each other, breathing hard. That was close, she whispered. Too close. But he was smiling, that devastating smile that made her stomach flip. Though worth it? We can't do that here. Anyone could have seen through the glass. I know. You're right. He straightened his tie, attempting to restore order to his appearance. But for the record, absolutely worth the risk. She couldn't help but smile. You're incorrigible. You love it. He leaned in, stealing one more quick kiss. Dinner tomorrow? My place? We can talk properly without the risk of interruption. That sounds like a terrible idea. It's a great idea. Say yes. She should say no, should maintain the boundaries she'd just insisted on. But looking at him, at the hope and want and affection in his eyes, she found herself nodding. Yes, but just dinner and talking. Just dinner and talking, he agreed, though the glint in his eyes suggested he had other ideas. I'll send you the address. He left, and Nia collapsed into her chair, her heart racing and her lips still tingling from his kiss. What had she just agreed to? The next day at work was torture. Every time she saw Jay in the hallway or past his office, her body remembered the feel of his hands on her waist, his mouth on her neck. She caught him watching her during the afternoon executive briefing, and the heat in his gaze made her lose her train of thought mid-sentence. Chi cornered her in the bathroom at lunch. Okay, spill. What happened? What are you talking about? You're glowing, actually glowing, and you keep touching your lips like you're remembering something. Chi's eyes widened. Oh my God. You kissed him. You finally kissed him. Chi, don't even try to deny it. I know that look. Chi grabbed her hands, squeezing. Tell me everything. Wait. No. Tell me the important parts. Did he grovel? Did you make him work for it? Is he a good kisser? Of course he is. Look at that mouth. Chi. But Nia was laughing despite herself. Yes, okay? Yes. We kissed. And yes, he's an excellent kisser. And we're having dinner tonight at his place to talk about what this means. His place? Nia, honey, there's not going to be much talking. That's not. We're just going to talk. Set boundaries. Figure out how to navigate this without destroying my career. Chi gave her a look that said she didn't believe a word. Sure. Talking. That's definitely all that's going to happen when you're alone in his apartment with all that unresolved tension. Keep telling yourself that. That evening, Nia stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes trying to decide what to wear. It was just dinner. Just talking. Nothing was going to happen. But she still changed outfits 3 times before settling on a simple black dress that was professional enough to maintain her boundaries, but flattering enough to make a statement. She was not trying to impress him. Absolutely not. The elevator ride to his penthouse felt endless. 63 floors, and every one of them gave her time to second-guess this decision. But when the doors opened directly into his apartment and she saw him waiting, all her doubts evaporated. He'd changed into casual clothes, dark jeans, and a fitted black t-shirt that showed off the lean muscle she'd felt beneath his dress shirts. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just showered, and he looked at her like she was the only thing in his world that mattered. Hi, he said, and his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Hi. She stepped into the apartment, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows that showed Seoul spread out below them like a carpet of lights. This is beautiful. It's home. He moved closer, taking her coat. Though it's better with you in it. Smooth. I try. He hung her coat and turned back to her. I made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and wine. I figured we could eat and talk and... He stopped, running a hand through his hair. I'm nervous. Why am I nervous? I've spent weeks alone with you. Maybe because this is different. She moved to the windows, needing space to think. Before, we were pretending there was nothing between us. Now we're being honest. He came to stand beside her, not touching, but close. Which is terrifying and exhilarating and everything I've wanted since the moment I met you. She turned to face him, and the vulnerability in his expression made her chest tight. I'm scared, Jay. Scared of wanting this too much. Scared of what it means if this falls apart. Scared that I'm making a huge mistake. I'm scared too. His hand found hers, fingers interlacing. But I think we'd regret not trying more than we'd regret trying and failing. That's very philosophical for someone who's supposed to be feeding me. He laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Come on, before the pasta gets cold, and I lose whatever points I've earned with my cooking skills. Dinner was comfortable in a way that surprised her. They talked about work, about soul, about everything and nothing. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by loaded glances and accidental touches that sent electricity skittering across her skin. Tell me something, she said over wine, emboldened by the intimacy of the moment. When did you know that you wanted this? The coffee incident. Day 1. He smiled at her surprised expression. You were standing there, drenched in iced Americano, furious and beautiful, and so completely in control, even in chaos. And I thought, this woman is going to ruin me. And I was right. I haven't ruined you. Haven't you? His gaze was intense, dark with want. I can't think straight when you're around. Can't focus in meetings because I'm too busy watching you. Can't sleep because I'm thinking about you. If that's not ruined, I don't know what is. Heat pooled low in her belly. Jay, what about you? When did you know? She considered lying, maintaining some dignity. But they'd promised honesty. The conference room. Week 2. You were explaining some analysis, leaning over my shoulder, and all I could think about was what it would feel like if you just turned your head and kissed me. And I knew I was in trouble. Trouble is one word for it. He stood, offering his hand. Come here. She should stay seated, should maintain distance, but her hand was in his before she could overthink it. And then he was pulling her up, pulling her close, and his hands were on her waist and his forehead was touching hers. I want to kiss you again, he murmured, but I also want to do this right. Want to take my time. Want to show you that this isn't just physical, even though God knows the physical is. He broke off with a groan. You're making this very difficult. I'm not doing anything. You're breathing. You're looking at me with those eyes. You're standing this close smelling like something I want to drown in. His hands tightened on her waist. You're existing, and that's enough to drive me crazy. Then maybe you should stop talking and kiss me. He didn't need to be told twice. His mouth found hers, and this kiss was different from yesterday. Slower, deeper, like he was savoring every second, memorizing the taste of her. His hand slid up her back, one tangling in her hair, and she melted against him. She'd been kissed before, but nothing compared to this. To the way he held her like she was precious and kissed her like she was air and he was drowning. To the way his body pressed against hers, solid and warm and perfect. He walked her backward until her back hit the glass window. The lights of Seoul spread out behind her like a galaxy. His mouth moved from her lips to her jaw, trailing kisses down her neck that made her gasp and arch into him. Tell me to stop, he murmured against her skin. Tell me this is too fast and I'll stop. Don't stop. Her hand slid under his shirt, finding warm skin and defined muscle. Don't you dare stop. His mouth found hers again, and the kiss turned desperate, consuming. His hands explored her body through the fabric of her dress, and she couldn't get close enough. Couldn't think past the need burning through her veins. Nia. Her name sounded like a prayer on his lips. We should slow down. Should talk about later. She pulled him closer, her leg hooking around his hip. We'll talk later. You're going to kill me. But he was smiling against her mouth, his hands gripping her thighs as he lifted her. Her legs wrapped around his waist instinctively, and the new angle made them both groan. He carried her away from the windows, toward the couch, laying her down gently. He hovered over her, his weight braced on his arms, and just looked at her for a long moment. What? She asked, breathless. I'm memorizing this. You. Here. Looking at me like that. I want to remember this moment forever. You're such a romantic. Only with you. He kissed her again, soft and reverent. Only ever with you. The night stretched before them, full of whispered confessions and tangled limbs, and a connection that went deeper than physical. When they finally came up for air, hours later, Nia lay curled against his chest on the couch, his arm wrapped around her, and felt something settle in her chest. Something that felt dangerously like peace. Stay, he murmured into her hair. Stay the night. I just want to hold you. She should go home, should maintain some semblance of boundaries. But his arms felt like safety, and for the first time in weeks, She wasn't running from what she wanted. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. The next few weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments and secret smiles. At work, they were nothing but professional. But the tension between them had shifted from frustrated to simmering, a delicious secret that only they shared. They'd steal away for lunch at his penthouse, lose themselves in each other during evening meetings that ran late, find excuses to brush past each other in empty hallways just for the thrill of the contact. It was intoxicating, dangerous. Everything she'd told herself she couldn't have, and somehow, they were making it work. But keeping secrets had consequences. 4 weeks into their relationship, Andre cornered Nia in the break room again. Hey, so I was thinking, since that dinner never happened, maybe we could. She's not interested. Jay's voice cut through the room like ice. He stood in the doorway, his expression pleasant but his eyes hard. Andre laughed nervously. I was just asking, and I'm telling you she's not interested. Jay moved into the room, and suddenly the space felt smaller, charged with a possessiveness that made Nia's pulse spike. In fact, I'd appreciate it if you stopped asking her altogether. Jay, Nia started, but the look he gave her silenced whatever protest she'd been about to make. Is there a problem here, Andre? Jay's voice was calm, reasonable, but underneath ran a current of steel. No. No problem. Andre retreated quickly. Excuse me. When they were alone, Nia turned on Jay. What was that? That was me making it clear that you're off limits. I can handle Andre myself. I know you can. He moved closer, backing her against the counter in a move that was becoming familiar. But watching him flirt with you makes me want to do very unprofessional things, so forgive me if I'm a little territorial about the woman I'm in love with. The words stopped her cold. What did you just say? He blinked, like he hadn't realized what he'd said. Then his expression softened. I love you. I'm in love with you. Have been for weeks, probably. Maybe since that first day when you looked at me, like I was just another intern to train and I knew I was completely done for. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Jay, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. He cupped her face gently. I'm all in, Nia. Completely. Terrifyingly. In love with you. You're an idiot, she whispered, but her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Probably. A complete idiot who just said the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me in a break room. His smile was brilliant. So? So I love you too, you impossible man. And then she was kissing him, break room be damned, pouring every emotion she'd been holding back into the kiss. They broke apart breathing hard and she laughed against his mouth. We're terrible at keeping this secret. Maybe we should stop trying. His thumb stroked her cheek. Maybe it's time to stop hiding. Your father, we'll deal with it. You're not negotiable, Nia. Not anymore. He kissed her forehead. But I'll follow your lead. Whatever you're comfortable with. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Chi. Conference room 3. Now. Emergency. They found Chi pacing the conference room, Minjun leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. Both looked serious. What's wrong? Nia asked. Someone saw you two, Chi said without preamble. At his apartment building. Last week. They took photos. Nia's stomach dropped. Who? Does it matter? Minjun's voice was calm but concerned. The photos are circulating. By tomorrow everyone will know. Jay's hand found Nia's, squeezing gently. Then we'll deal with it. Together. This could destroy my career, Nia said, panic rising in her chest. Everyone will say I slept my way to director. No one who matters will say that. Jay turned her to face him. Your work speaks for itself. Your brilliance speaks for itself. And anyone who suggests otherwise will have to go through me. That's not how this works. Then we'll make it work. His voice was fierce, protective. I'm not losing you because of other people's opinions. We'll be transparent. We'll document everything. We'll show that your promotion was decided before we got together, whatever it takes. He's right, Minjun said. The best defense is honesty. Get ahead of the story. Control the narrative. And I'll help, Chi added. We all will. You're not alone in this, Nia. Nia looked at Jay, at the determination in his eyes, and felt something settle in her chest. Fear, yes, but also certainty. This was real. This was worth fighting for. Okay, she said. Okay, we do this together. The next morning, Jay called an emergency executive meeting. Nia sat beside him, her heart racing as he addressed the room full of curious and speculating faces. I'm sure you've all heard the rumors by now, Jay started, his voice calm and professional. Director Adesanya and I are in a relationship. It's recent, it's serious, and it started after her promotion was finalized. I want to make that timeline crystal clear. Murmurs rippled through the room. Nia kept her expression neutral, even as her palms sweated. Director Adesanya earned her position through exceptional work, strategic brilliance, and 3 years of dedication to this company. Jay continued. Her promotion was voted on and approved by the board before our personal relationship began. Anyone who suggests otherwise is not only wrong, but disrespectful to one of the finest strategic minds this company has. Director Huang cleared his throat. With all due respect, Mr. Park, this puts the company in a difficult position. The optics are that two professionals are in a relationship while maintaining the highest standards of work. Jay cut him off smoothly. We're not the first, and we won't be the last. As long as there's no conflict of interest and no preferential treatment, which there isn't and won't be, this is no one's business but ours. The board will want to review, then we'll cooperate fully with any review. Jay's voice was steel-wrapped in silk. I have nothing to hide. Neither does Director Adesanya. Her work will continue to speak for itself, as it always has. The meeting ended with more murmurs and speculative looks, but Jay had made his position clear. Later, in his office, Nia paced while he watched. That was risky, she said. That was necessary. He caught her hand, pulling her close. I meant what I said. You're not negotiable. Not your career, not your reputation, not your place here. Anyone who has a problem with us will have to go through me. You can't protect me from everything. Watch me try. He kissed her forehead. We're in this together, remember? Whatever comes, we face it as a team. A team, she repeated, testing the word. It felt good. Right. Besides, he added with a slight smile, you're terrifying when you're determined. I almost pity anyone who tries to come for you. She laughed despite herself. You're ridiculous. You love me anyway. I do. She cupped his face, pulling him down for a kiss. God help me. I really do. The weeks that followed were challenging. Some people whispered, some made snide comments. But Nia's work continued to be exceptional, her strategies brilliant, her results undeniable. And slowly, the gossip died down, replaced by a grudging respect for the woman who'd earned her position and the relationship she'd chosen. Jay's father was harder to win over. He showed up at Jay's office 6 weeks after the announcement, his expression cold. This woman is not appropriate for you. This woman has a name. Nia Adesanya, and she's perfect. Jay's voice was calm but unyielding. I'm not ending this relationship, father. Not for you, not for optics, not for anything. You're throwing away advantageous connections for love. For someone who sees me, not my last name. For someone who makes me want to be better than the legacy you're so worried about protecting. Jay leaned forward. I'm doing this my way, and if you can't support that, then I'm sorry. But my decision is made. His father studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, something like respect flickered in his eyes. "You're more like me than I thought. Stubborn. I learned from the best." His father didn't smile, but the tension in the room eased fractionally. "Don't make me regret giving you this company." "I won't. But I'm running it my way, and that includes choosing my own partner." After his father left, Jay called Nia. "Dinner tonight? I need to see you." "Everything okay?" "Better than okay. I'll tell you tonight." That evening, over wine and takeout at his place, Jay told her about the conversation with his father. "He didn't give his blessing exactly," Jay said, pulling her close on the couch. "But he didn't disown me either. For him, that's progress." "I don't need his approval," Nia said, though the tension in her shoulders suggested otherwise. "I know. But I want you to have it anyway. Want him to see what I see. That you're brilliant and strong and everything I could ever want." He kissed her temple. "He'll come around. And if he doesn't, that's his loss, not ours." She turned in his arms, straddling his lap in a move that made his breath catch. "Have I told you lately that I love you?" "Not in the last hour. I'm feeling neglected." She laughed, the sound warm and genuine, and kissed him. "I love you. Even when you're being impossible. Even when you're overprotective. Even when you drive me absolutely crazy. Even when I'm all of those things at once? Especially then." She kissed him again, deeper this time, and felt his hands slide up her thighs. "Take me to bed, Jay." "Yes, ma'am." 3 months later, Nia stood in a conference room presenting her West African expansion strategy to a room full of international investors. Jay sat in the back, his expression professionally neutral, but she caught the pride in his eyes every time she made a point. Her presentation was flawless. The investors asked tough questions, and she answered each one with the confidence of someone who knew her material inside and out. When she finished, the applause was genuine and enthusiastic. "Exceptional work, Director Adesanya," one of the investors said. "Your analysis is thorough, and your projections are realistic. We'd be fools not to move forward with this." After the meeting, Jay caught her in the hallway. They'd gotten better at maintaining professional distance at work, but the way he looked at her still made her pulse race. "Incredible job in there," he said, voice low enough that only she could hear. "Just doing my job, Mr. Park." "Still, you were brilliant. I'm in awe." His hand brushed hers, a quick touch that sent electricity up her arm. "Dinner tonight to celebrate? Your place or mine?" "Mine. I'll cook." His smile turned wicked. "And then I'll show you exactly how proud I am of you." Heat flooded through her. "That sounds—" "Director Adesanya." Andre appeared around the corner and Nia had to suppress a groan. He'd been carefully professional since Jay's warning months ago, but he still had terrible timing. "Great presentation. I was wondering if you had a moment to discuss the marketing angles." "Actually, Director Adesanya has another meeting," Jay said smoothly, "but I'm sure she can schedule time with you next week. Her assistant can coordinate." Andre nodded and disappeared quickly. When he was gone, Nia turned to Jay with raised eyebrows. "Another meeting?" "With me, in my office, door locked." His eyes darkened. "I need to congratulate you properly." "Jay, we can't—" "5 minutes. Just let me kiss you for 5 minutes, and then I'll let you go back to being the consummate professional." She should say no, should maintain the boundaries they'd so carefully constructed. But she just nailed the biggest presentation of her career, and she wanted to celebrate with the man she loved. 5 minutes, she agreed. They barely made it to his office before his mouth was on hers, hungry and demanding. He backed her against the closed door, his hands framing her face as he kissed her with the kind of intensity that made her forget her own name. "I'm so proud of you," he murmured against her lips. "So incredibly proud. You were magnificent in there." "Jay, I know. I know we need to keep this professional. But God, Nia, watching you command that room, seeing those investors hang on your every word. He kissed her again. You're extraordinary. Do you know that? Absolutely extraordinary. Keep talking like that and we're going to violate every boundary we've set. Would that be so terrible? His mouth moved to her neck, finding that spot that made her knees weak. We're not breaking any rules. No conflicts of interest. No preferential treatment. Just two people who are crazy about each other stealing a moment. Someone could knock, then we'll stop. He lifted his head, his eyes dark with want but also filled with something softer. Love, respect, partnership. But until they do, I'm going to kiss the woman I love and tell her how amazing she is. A knock on the door made them both freeze. Jay stepped back, straightening his tie, while Nia smoothed her hair and tried to look professional. Come in, Jay called, his voice perfectly composed. Minjun entered, took one look at them, and smirked. Am I interrupting? Not at all, Jay said coolly. What do you need? Just wanted to congratulate Nia on the presentation. It was impressive. Minjun's smirk widened. But seeing as you two are busy, I'll just excuse myself. After he left, Nia collapsed against Jay's desk, laughing. We're terrible at this. We're actually quite good at it. Minjun's just annoyingly observant. He pulled her close again. I love you, she said, her chest tightening with emotion. I love you too. He kissed her softly. Now let's get through the rest of this workday so I can take you home and show you properly. Later, back at Jay's penthouse, Nia stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at Seoul spread beneath them like a carpet of stars. Jay came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and pulling her back against his chest. What are you thinking about? He murmured into her hair. How different everything is from 3 months ago. How scared I was. How angry. She turned in his arms, looking up at him. How wrong I was about so many things. You weren't wrong. You were protecting yourself. Your career. Everything you'd worked for. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I never blamed you for that. I blame myself. For pushing you away. For wasting time we could have spent together. We're together now. That's what matters. He kissed her forehead. And we have all the time in the world. Do we? What happens when your father really pushes back? When the board decides this is too complicated? Then we'll handle it. Together. His voice was firm, certain. Nia, I told you from the beginning, you're not negotiable. Not your place in my life, not your career, not anything. We're a team. Whatever comes, we face it side by side. She searched his face, looking for any hint of doubt, and found only unwavering commitment. I don't deserve you. You deserve everything. He cupped her face gently. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. The rest of your life? That's a pretty big commitment. I'm a pretty committed guy. His smile turned serious. I mean it, Nia. I know it's only been a few months, but I know what I want. And what I want is you. Every day, every challenge, every moment. Just you. Tears pricked her eyes. You're going to make me cry, and I'm wearing mascara. Then cry. I'll buy you more mascara. He kissed her softly. I love you. So much it terrifies me sometimes. But it's the best kind of fear. The kind that makes you want to be brave. I love you too. She pulled him closer, pouring every emotion into the kiss. Thank you for not giving up on me, for being patient when I was stubborn and scared. Always. He swept her into his arms, making her laugh. Now, I believe I promised to show you how proud I am of you. You did make that promise. And I always keep my promises. He carried her toward the bedroom, and she wrapped her arms around his neck, feeling more content, more complete, more herself than she'd ever felt. 6 months ago, she'd walked into a conference room expecting to train an intern. Instead, she'd found a partner, a lover, someone who saw her for exactly who she was and loved her not despite her ambition and strength, but because of it. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Jay's father would continue to push back. Office politics would always be complicated. But looking at the man carrying her to bed, the man who'd fought for her, waited for her, loved her through her fear and pride, she knew they'd figure it out. Together. If you loved Nia and Jay's journey from anger to acceptance to passionate love, hit that like button right now. And don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment from this episode. Was it the break room confrontation? The confession of love? The steamy penthouse scenes? I want to hear from you. Until next time, remember that the best love stories are the ones worth fighting for.